Gently close your eyes. Do deep breathing. We'll chant Om once together. Synchronize the chanting of Om with your exhalation. Breathe in. Sahana vavatu, sahanau bhunaktu, sahaviryam karavavahai, tejasvinavaditamastu mavit vishavahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Gently open your eyes. We will chant from verses 68 to 72 of chapter 2. Tasmadhyasya mahabaho,
Tasmadhyasya mahabaho,
Nigrihitani sarvashah,
Nigrihitani sarvashah,
Indriyani-indriyarthebhyah,
Indriyani-indriyarthebhyah,
Tasya prajna pratisthita,
Tasya prajna pratisthita,
Ya nisha sarvabhutanam,
Ya nisha sarvabhutanam,
Tasyam jagati sanyami,
Tasyam jagarti sanyami,
Yasyam jagrati bhutani,
Yasyam jagrati bhutani,
Sa nisha pashyato muneः,
Sa nisha pashyato muneः,
Apuryamānamachala pratishtham,
Apuryamānamachala pratishtham,
Samudramāpah pravishanti yadvat,
Samudramāpah pravishanti yadvat,
Tadvat kāmayam pravishanti sarve,
Tadvat kāmayam pravishanti sarve,
Sashantimāpnoti na kāmakāmi,
Sashantimāpnoti na kāmakāmi,
Vihāya kāmānyas sarvān,
Vihāya kāmānyas sarvān,
Pumāmscharati nisprihah,
Pumāmscharati nisprahah,
Nirmamo nirahankarah,
Nirmamo nirahankarah,
Sashantimadhigacchati.
Sashantimadhigacchati.
Esha Brahmi Sthiti Partha
Esha Brahmi Sthiti Partha
Nainam Prapya Vimuhyati
Nainam Prapya Vimuhyati
Stitva Syamanta Kalepi
Stitva Syamantakaalepi
Brahma Nirvana Mrichati.
Brahma Nirvana Mrichati.
Hari Om, and a very good day to all of you. So we have been seeing the supreme state of a Sthita Prajna, a person who has got enlightened. Actually, the Bhagavad Gita is so beautifully structured. The first chapter and the initial portion of the second chapter is devoted to the sorrow of Arjuna, the problem which Arjuna had. And then after that, we find Lord Krishna talking from a very high level to start with, and then the question is asked about Sthita Prajna. He covers who is an enlightened person, and then in the third chapter, which we'll be starting soon, Arjuna asks the question about karma. What is my karma? Should I fight or should I gain knowledge or whatever? Then he starts, Krishna gives the Karma Yoga. Now this is a very nice structure, because if you want an answer, first you should ask a question. That is, question means not merely a verbal question, you should seek. So the first chapter and the initial 10 or 12 verses of the second chapter, where Arjuna expresses his sorrow, his inability to face the challenge which was in front of him, and finally he surrenders and he requests for for help from Krishna. Now that actually depicts how a student should be. If you want to gain this wisdom, you should first recognize your problems. You should become aware of them, and you should seek the higher guidance. And then of course Krishna straight away started talking from a very high level, because he wanted to give some time to Arjuna to settle down. That is, his emotions were so high, he was literally crying, and at that time if Krishna had given him any advice, Arjuna wouldn't have grasped anything. So for a while Krishna spoke from a very high level, so that during that time Arjuna's emotions kind of settled down. He was also giving healing continuously. And not only that, Arjuna was seeing Krishna as his friend, mere childhood friend. So he had to establish his spiritual credentials. Unless and until Arjuna sees Krishna as a spiritual person, as a master, for him to see him as an avatar, that is a direct manifestation of the infinite, may be very high. It may not be possible straight away. But at least he has to see Krishna as a master, as someone who has crossed over all this, who is beyond all this, who is in a position to guide. So in order to make Arjuna understand that, Krishna spoke at a high level. That is the other reason. And then Arjuna asked this question, who is Sthitaprajna, how does he walk, and all that. Now that is actually not in context. If you take Arjuna's situation, he should be asking about how should I solve the present problem. But instead he is asking this question. So from Arjuna's point of view, it is actually not a pertinent question. But from the point of view of Vyasa, that is the message which he is trying to give, before he gets into Karma Yoga, he first starts off with a Sthita Prajna to give the message to humanity that this is your ultimate goal. So before the actual practical message of Karma Yoga starts, the state of a Sthita Prajna is being covered in detail so that your ultimate goal gets fixed in your mind. See, if you don't have this ultimate goal of God realization or self-realization, then what will happen is you will get stuck with some limited spiritual practice that is called Sakama Sadhana. See, there is a difference, Sakama Sadhana and Nishkama Sadhana. Sakama Sadhana means you take up a particular sadhana, spiritual practice, in order to get a specific result, a worldly result, limited result. Like I want wealth, so you do a certain sadhana. I want this particular problem to get solved, so you do the sadhana. I want to get a job, you do the sadhana. So once you get the result, you will stop the sadhana. This is called Sakama Sadhana. Nishkama Sadhana means you do the same sadhana, the spiritual practice. In our context, it is a Yoga Sankirtan. But your ultimate goal is that of self-realization. It is not that you don't want your limited goals to be achieved or your other desires to be fulfilled. That is not it. But you don't do it as an end in itself. Even when you get a lot of benefits, worldly benefits, you will still not stop your sadhana if you have done it with the ultimate goal in the background. So when you have the ultimate goal in the background, it becomes Nishkama Sadhana. So many people come to spirituality because they have some problem, and then once the problem gets resolved, they drop off spirituality. Now such people will not grow spiritually, will not move towards the infinite. So any scripture is ultimately meant for sadhaks. Rather, every human being has to become a sadhak at some point of time, because that is your goal. The infinite is your lakshya. Lakshya means target, goal. It is not something from outside which these masters are coming and giving you. Oh, keep this as your goal. In every aspect of your life, why are you dissatisfied today? Have you ever thought about it? Whether it is wealth or whether it is name, whether it is fame, whether it is relationships, work. The more you achieve, the more you want to achieve. Why is that? The richest person in the world wants more riches. The most beautiful person in the world wants more beauty. The most powerful person in the world wants more power. Why is it that you're unable to get satisfied in spite of getting so much? The reason is, what you are unconsciously seeking is the infinite. So any amount of finite things you get is not going to satisfy you. That is why when Swami Ramatita was asked, why are people greedy? He shot back a question. He said, why not? Of course you will be greedy because what you are seeking is infinite. You are that infinite. You have not realized that. So you are unconsciously gravitating towards the infinite. So any amount of finite things which you get, you are not going to be satisfied. The greed will be there. The solution to this is not in merely acquiring more and more things from outside. As I told you, that you may do for functional purposes. But the solution to this is in merging with the infinite which is there within you. That is your lakshya, that is your goal. So by covering the Sthita Prajna portion just before the Karma Yoga, it is a very strong message which Vyasa is giving us. He is literally fixing this goal in your mind which you have within you, but you are not aware of it today. See, it is very inspiring. Anybody who studies these verses, especially using the yogic approach, will get extremely inspired. Now, if I were to ask you, are you inspired? You will say yes. Even this verse 70, when you just when we take these words like ocean, samudram, and then achalam, pratishtam, all these words, shantihi, they inspire you tremendously. But next, if I ask you, have you fully understood what he is saying? Your answer will be no. Any sadhak's answer will be no. If you say, I have understood everything fully, it means you have not gone into the depth. Beginning to see our ignorance is the first sign of wisdom. So when you have not understood something fully, what inspires you? See, generally, when something is told to you, you understand it and you get thrilled, you get inspired. Here, even though your understanding is not complete, you get so inspired. That is why you're coming week after week. Why is that? Because whether you understand this intellectually or not, what he is talking about is there deep within you. This is triggering your spiritual quest. It is triggering what you have within yourself already. So you seem to not know this, but at the same time, this inspires you so much. You will have the same experience with your guru also. See, when a student goes to a guru, day by day, as he keeps receiving the higher Shakti, the higher energy, he or she feels so inspired. But the student is unable to understand the guru fully. That is, to fathom the depth of the guru is not possible using the limited equipments of the intellect and the mind. Even though you don't fully understand the master, you still get inspired by his presence. You get inspired by his words. Why? Because whatever he says, whatever he does is actually triggering what is there within you. If you actually become devoted to a master, you will find a strange thing happening. On one hand, you will be very, very devoted to the master externally, but you will also be pushed within. You will become more of an inquirer, self-inquirer. So the whole exercise here is to trigger whatever is there within you already. This is not something which you need to acquire in a fresh way. You have it within you. Now, different ways are being used to bring it out. So, in the initial stages, we say that you have to merge with divinity. You have to merge with the infinite. But as you do your sadhana, as you progress spiritually, your effort will not be in terms of trying to merge with the infinite. The infinite which is there within will start emerging from within. So it is initially where you will try to merge with the infinite. But once you settle down with the sadhana and you keep on doing the tapas, you take the Guru's guidance, the higher Shakti, and as your spiritual powers increase, the infinite will start emerging from within. What does it mean? It means everything which is being said here is already there within you. You don't need to seek it outside. So it is an amazing construction where he gives the portion of Sthita Prajna in the second chapter, and then he moves on to the Karma Yoga in the third chapter. So as we are going deep into these verses, remember this. This is primarily meant to trigger that quest from within you. It is primarily meant to increase that seeking from within, the mumukshatva. Many people mistake this word mumukshatva. Mumukshatva means the desire to liberate yourself. Some people think mumukshatva means it is a desire to study the Vedas, the scriptures. No. That is an intellectual quest. You are a jignasu. In one of the later chapters he'll be saying, if you are having an intellectual quest, then you are a jignasu. You just have an intellectual curiosity. You want to gain more knowledge externally. But a mumukshu is one who has mumukshatva. Mumukshatva means that intense desire to liberate oneself from this finite. The intense quest to go beyond everything and become one with that infinite divinity. Mumukshatva has nothing to do with your education, your culture and all this. You may come from any country, any culture. All these things do not matter. What matters is what are you seeking. Everyone is seeking the infinite only. Now, what is the difference between a sadhak and a non-sadhak? See, Ramatirtha says even when you are greedy about wealth, you are actually seeking the infinite. Not only wealth, anything which you seek, you are seeking the infinite only. Then this question may come, what is the difference between a sadhak and a non-sadhak? A sadhak recognizes that what he or she is seeking is the infinite. An ordinary person has not yet recognized that. For a normal person, the worldly pursuit is the end. At least he thinks it is the end when he starts the pursuit. And once he gets an object, now he finds that that doesn't satisfy him. So he wants more, or he wants some other object. This search keeps on going without the realization about what he is truly searching. A sadhak is one who clearly understands that whatever he is seeking is the infinite. Even when he acquires things from the world, when he enjoys the worldly pleasures, he never ever loses sight of the ultimate goal of self-realization. So when the word realization is used, self-realization is the ultimate state. But even as a sadhana, to realize that your true goal is the infinite self, Shantihi, that is the path. That sets the path. That sets the direction for the path. So the word realization is such a beautiful word which denotes the state which also makes you a sadhak. So everyone is God. Then what is the difference between a God realized person and a non-God realized person? He has not yet realized that he or she is God, whereas this person has realized that. Everyone is seeking God. Then what is the difference between normal people and sadhak? Normal person hasn't realized that the goal is the infinite. What that person is seeking is infinite. Whereas one who has realized that becomes a sadhak. So your first goal is to become a sadhak. And once you become a sadhak, you go on progressing. And one day the sadhak will become the sthita prajna. So when he is talking of the sthita prajna, he is not merely talking of someone who has reached the highest state. He is actually wanting to convert you into a sadhak first. See, in the process of using the yogic approach and going into the depth of these verses, what happens? Your very perception about your life starts changing. Your perception about yourself starts changing. From a normal person who's caught up in the finite, now you begin to gain tremendous clarity about what you are seeking in life. What is the purpose of your life? It means you started becoming a sadhak. And then you get the inspiration to do the sadhana. You are able to absorb more from the master, and you go on doing the sadhana, and slowly the inner transformation takes place, and one day you become the sthita prajna. This is the deeper motive, or I would say this is the deeper transformation which these verses are making within you. So when he says the sthita prajna is like an ocean, apuryamanam achala pratishtam samudram, As I told you last week, from the ultimate standpoint, he's talking about the Sthita Prajna. But from a sadhak's point of view, there are so many messages. So, Apurya Manam means the waters coming from all quarters. So, the Sthita Prajna is like the ocean. He allows all the experiences of life to fall into him, but he remains unmoved. See, it is very important for you to experience life fully. When it is said that your goal is infinite, not these limited, finite objects which the world can offer, many people misunderstand that and they think now they have to stop contacting the world. They think spirituality means you should not enjoy the world. Now, that is a meaningless thing, because if you cut off all your contacts with the world, first of all, that is not practically possible 100%. Even if you go to the Himalayas, even if you go to a forest, that forest is also an aspect of the world only. You cannot detach yourself from the world 100% externally. It is not possible. But if you try that, what will happen is you will be left with all your desires, all your impressions. Unresolved issues will continue to remain within you, in your karmic body. So those unresolved issues will not allow your consciousness to rise. See, in order to move up, you need to become free. You need to offload all the weight, the baggage which is pulling you down. Today, your consciousness is loaded with so much of dirt, with a lot of impressions, unresolved issues. And when your consciousness is loaded with all these unresolved issues, for you to focus on the infinite and merge with that becomes impossible, because the weight of these impressions pull the consciousness down. That is why they say that association with a master is very important, because a master's consciousness is an expanded one. He has become like the ocean. So from one end, he keeps on pulling your consciousness up. Even if the weight of your karmas actually pull your consciousness down, he keeps pulling it up. And along with that, when you do your sadhana, chances are that you will become free. So in order to resolve those issues, you need to be in the world and deal with them. By escaping, you cannot achieve anything. The problem is, when you are in the world, when you contact the world, generally you lose sight of the ultimate goal. So in order to bring you back on track, in order to bring the mind onto this path, the masters say that what is there in the world, you're getting lost there. That is to bring the focus. But the moment it is said what is there in the world, if you stop acting, then you are in big trouble, because you are not putting in any effort to resolve your unresolved issues. If you have an issue with your spouse, for example, now you need to solve it. See, solving is of two ways, by trying to change the other person. But when I say solve it, solving it in a sadhana way. That is by developing the qualities of forgiveness, acceptance, unconditional love, and removing all the affectations from the deeper layers of your mind with respect to that relationship. When you achieve that, that is when you have truly resolved that issue. If you are working in a company and let us say you are unable to handle the stress, the responsibility is too much. Now, by doing the sadhana, you need to increase your capacity. Probably you may be a leader, you may be having 3 people under you, but you don't know how to delegate. I am giving an example. You may not know how to delegate and get the work done from them properly. So you may be taking up all that work and pressure. So the solution there is in improving your leadership qualities, your delegation capacity, and finding a solution. Then you have resolved the issue from a spiritual point of view, because you have grown from that experience. You have not only grown from that experience, see, only when you grow, when you learn the lesson and grow from an experience, you will be able to outgrow that experience and move further up. So when he says apurya manam achala pratishtam, so the person, the Sthita Prajna, allows all the experiences of the world to come into him. What is the sadhana message? As a sadhak, you need to experience the life in totality and complete all your experiences. You need to resolve all the unresolved issues. The idea of doing sadhana, the idea of getting into spirituality, is not to leave the world. It is to live in the world. It is not to escape from problems, but it is to get that inner strength to face the problems, to face the challenges squarely. Arjuna wanted to escape from the problem. He wanted to run away. Now, after hearing the Bhagavad Gita, he said, Nashto moha, means all my moha, delusion is gone. I understand that I can escape from the external problem, but I cannot escape from the mind, which is the source of all the problems. So wherever I go, the mind will start attracting, projecting some issue or other externally. So that's why he says, all my moha has gone. In the final chapter, in the 18th chapter, he says that. Now I'm ready to face the challenge. So in the name of sadhana, in the name of spirituality, if any of you, if you are shirking your worldly responsibilities, your duties, then you are not doing the sadhana properly. You have not understood what the purpose of the sadhana is. That is why I always keep saying, when someone comes to me and says, sir, I'm doing a lot of, I'm doing sadhana regularly, I'm feeling so peaceful and all that, I always tell him, go and send your spouse, go and send your family members. Same thing for a lady also. If you say, I'm feeling so peaceful, what about your family members? They have to tell. They have to tell means, I'm putting it in a humorous way, but the message there is, see, for you to claim peace can be tamasic also. You can shirk your duties and temporarily become numb. That is not shanti. You should become like a samudram. You should be able to take up more and more responsibilities in life and yet remain peaceful. That is why I think it was Mahatma Gandhi who said this. Any fool can find Shanti in Shanti. Means in peaceful circumstances, anybody can be peaceful. But if you are wise, try to find Shanti in Ashanti. Ashanti means in turbulence, in stressful situations. That is true peace. So the test of whether you are doing your sadhana properly or not, the test of whether you are following the deeper messages given every Sunday is whether you are doing your duties properly in life, number one, and whether you are able to take up more and more responsibilities and still maintain your peace. You know, as Swami Vivekananda kept saying, he said, allow your body to act dynamically. Let your eyes see, ears hear, let your brain keep thinking, let your body be in 100% action, but you be in the state of peace, rest. Yogastha kuru karmani. Be in the state of yoga and do karma, Arjuna, says Krishna. Be in that state of yoga, in that state of peace, and then do everything. See, I am giving you this part of the wisdom in these verses because this is going to be the central theme of the third chapter, the Karma Yoga. So, as we are doing the second chapter, using the yogic approach, I am also preparing you to slide into the third chapter. So, use this wisdom to become like an ocean. Find out what are the areas which are unresolved in your life and apply this wisdom there. You're receiving the healing Shakti every week, and when you're doing your sadhana, the sadhana materials, all the material which has been given to you, whether it's the Yoga Sankirtan or Kaya Tattva meditations, whatever it is, they are all energized. So as you sincerely do the sadhana, the energy which is embedded in that material will all get opened up, will all get triggered and receive all that healing Shakti, the higher grace, and use this Shakti to complete your experiences in life. 100% worldly life, 100% inner spiritual life. That is spirituality. So he is not stopping with saying the Sthita Prajna is like an ocean. The other aspect which he gives, where he says the ocean, just as all the waters enter the ocean, but the ocean remains unmoved. That is how the Sthita Prajna is. That's why this verse is an amazing verse. If he had stopped only with the ocean, saying a Sthita Prajna is like an ocean, chances are you will misunderstand and you may get into a state of escapism. So he is very, very carefully starting with Apuryamanam Achala Pratishtam. If you see the verse, he doesn't start off with Samudram, ocean. He starts off with Apuryamanam from all sides, so that there is no chance of misunderstanding. Yet people have misunderstood spirituality. That is why sometimes I wonder whether these masters are geniuses or whether people who misunderstand, they are geniuses. Because they are taking so much of pains, they are almost ensuring that there is no chance of anyone misunderstanding, and yet the human mind finds a way to misunderstand, and it misunderstands the whole philosophy. So if you understand the ancient wisdom properly, that will enrich your life. If you misunderstand it, you may go to one of these extremes. Either people in the name of spirituality, they get into indulgence. Like there are many people who say, see in spirituality it is said that you should be in the present. I know a person who was a chain smoker, and he said, I've been trying to practice this wisdom, Yogishri, but I'm unable to come out of smoking. I said, what wisdom did you practice? He said, simple. Whenever I was smoking, I used to remember your point. Always be in the present. Don't worry about the past. Don't have any anxiety for the future. Just be in the present. So right now, in the present moment, what am I doing? Smoking. So let me just focus and keep smoking. Actually, a person told me this. Yet I'm unable to overcome this. This is indulgence. So you take one aspect of the wisdom and indulge, or if you misunderstand this wisdom, you will take the other aspect of the wisdom and you will become a recluse. You will become unfit to contact the world. See, most of the people who claim that I am in spirituality, they are unable to freely contact the world. They are not comfortable. That will also not give you peace. Both these extremes will increase the agitations, the stress within you. You have to be in the center. That is apuryamanam. Now, last week I had explained to you another dimension of Samudram where, the waves are there in the surface and deep within is peace. So it can be compared to your personality. I had given you two ways of approaching it. One is going deep within you from the body to the pranas, from the pranas to the mind, from the mind to the wisdom to the bliss sheath, and then penetrating and going deep within. This is one way. Or just taking any one aspect, stacking all of them side by side, and taking any one aspect like the body or the pranas or the mind and going deep into that, you will still reach the infinite. Now, that second part you don't need to worry, because that is what we are doing in the empowerment courses. That requires a lot of higher Shakti. Now, when you see yourself as the ocean, that is, when you see your personality as the ocean, that becomes very, very significant in your sadhana. I'll tell you why. See, I have received this question in different ways many a times. Even recently I got this question. Somebody had even put it in the YouTube comments also. That is, when you look at your agitations, when you look at your stress, when you look at your weaknesses, you genuinely doubt is it possible for me to attain the state of peace which he's talking about here? Isn't this true? Every one of you, at some point of time, you would have had this thought. Seeing your weaknesses, seeing your agitation, seeing your level of stress, yeah, I'm like this. Is it really possible? Is this practically possible for me? Yes, some masters may have done that. But can I attain self-realization? Can I become one with the infinite? This doubt will come to your mind. Now, if you absorb this message of comparing your personality with the ocean, the waves are at the surface and what is deep within you is peace, this doubt will go away. See, self-doubt is a very big block when it comes to spiritual progress. Self-confidence and inner strength is extremely important. They are extremely important for a sadhak to progress spiritually. And what kills your confidence in the spiritual path is the awareness about your own negativities, awareness about your weaknesses. If you are not aware of your weaknesses, there is no solution at all. But when you do some sadhana, your awareness will increase and you will begin to see all the negativities. At that time, you may get bogged down by the negativities. You may lose your confidence. A lot of doubts will creep in. Now, how do you get your confidence in this path? By understanding that you are the ocean. Whatever negativities you're experiencing, they are actually the waves. But the fact that waves are there means if you go deep within, peace will also be there. Just absorb this thought into your system. The fact that waves are there means there is depth. See, it is very interesting. If you take a small bowl of water and keep it, there are no waves, isn't it? Now, if you keep a bucket of water, again there are no waves. But when you go to an ocean, there is a large body of water, then the waves are there. So as the depth of the water increases, the waves are there. That is, wherever there are waves, it means the water body is very deep and vast. The converse is not true. It is not that wherever there is depth, there has to be waves. Then you may get the wrong message. But it is a fact that if the waves are there, if a lot of disturbance is there, turbulence at the surface, it means that water body is very vast and it is also very deep. So when you get that doubt, oh, I'm so much agitated, I have so many weaknesses, can I really attain the Shanti? Can I become a Sthita Prajna? Then immediately apply this aspect of the wisdom. I am like the ocean. These agitations are like the waves. And the fact that these agitations are there, it means the water body is vast and deep. It means I am vast and I am deep. I am not explored that yet. See, when you're caught up with the waves and you're going up when the waves are going up, you're going down when the waves are going down. You're so busy with the surface level, you don't have the time or you don't have the inclination to explore the depth of the ocean. Similarly, when you're so much caught up with your problems, with your stress, so much of stress from all aspects of life, whether you take health or whether you take finance, wealth, relationships, work. So all these come and they toss you, literally toss you, just as if you're caught up in the waves will toss you up and down. So you have to use your willpower and say, yes, every Sunday now I will do the sadhana of the yogic approach. I will attend these sessions and I'll receive the higher Shakti, the higher wisdom. Every day I will do my personal sadhana, Yoga Sankirtan. So when you put your foot down, when you use your willpower and decide on this, then what are you essentially doing? You are setting aside about, let us say, about 1.5 to 2 hours every week for this session, for these sessions. And also every day you're setting aside about an hour for your personal sadhana, for you to explore the depth of the ocean. See, unless you explore the depth, you will not be able to come out of the clutches of the waves. But unless you are free from the waves, you will not have the time or inclination to explore the depth of the ocean. This is the catch-22 situation. So what should you do? Right now, let all your problems be as they are. You are caught up in the waves, fine, but use your willpower. You have that capacity within you, the willpower. Use that fully and say that I will do sadhana. Sadhana means exploring the ocean. It's a self-discovery process, exploring your own personality, going deep within yourself. The Guru is there to help you, but you have to seek the help. You have to receive the higher grace. No? So using your willpower, once you start doing your sadhana, then you will slowly come out of the clutches of waves. So the fact that there are a lot of agitations, actually you should rejoice. The more your agitations, it means the more vast the ocean is, the more deep the ocean is. So if you just explore that, you will attain peace. See, this is what happened with people like Sage Valmiki, Angulimala. You must have heard of these great people. Valmiki was a highway robber in the initial stages. His name was Ratnakar. He was a highway robber. He used to kill people who were passing by that area, and he used to loot all their wealth. So one day Sage Narada was passing by that area because he knew that Valmiki was ready for the higher wisdom, for the higher empowerment. So when he passed by that area, now Ratnakar, he caught hold of him and he said, now give me all your wealth. Now Narada said, I have no wealth. All I have is this veena, and I use this to keep singing the glories of God. That's all I have with me. Now Ratnakar couldn't believe that. So he tied Narada to a tree and he said, you better give me whatever you have, otherwise I will kill you. To which Sage Narada asked him, tell me, why are you doing all this? Why are you doing such evil activities? To which he said, for the sake of my family. I have to take care of my family. I have my parents, I have a wife, I have a son. So I have to take care of their needs. That is why I am doing this. So to which Narada asked him, okay, you're doing all these actions and you're claiming that you're doing it for the family. So they are, whatever wealth you are looting from people, they are enjoying that, fine. But, every action has a reaction, a consequence. That is the law of karma. So do you want to see the consequences of these actions? So to which Ratnakar asked him, what do you mean? I don't understand anything. Because he was just a highway robber, he couldn't understand this philosophy. So Sage Narada asked him to come near him. He was tied, around a tree. He asked Ratnakar to come near him and he touched the third eye point. And he gave him the first empowerment. He opened up the third eye a little bit. And when his third eye was opened a little bit, he went into a deep state of meditation. And in that meditation, he saw his own karmic body. And there were huge baggages, dump as if you take the bags made of cloth and you dump a lot of dirt. Like this, if lot of dirt is there, how will it be? So he had a spiritual vision. And then he came out of the meditation and he asked Narada, what is it that I saw now? He said, all those are nothing but the consequences of your actions, your sins, papa. Now Ratnakar became very afraid. He said, so many agitations, so many sins I have done, the consequences. Now what should I do about it? To which Sage Narada told him, you go back and ask your family members whether they will be willing to share this with you, the consequences of your own actions. So he went back. He went and asked his family members one by one, his father, mother, wife, son, but none of them were willing to share the consequences of the actions. They said, we are not responsible. We never asked you to go and loot. We never asked you to kill people. That is your responsibility. Now he became very, very dejected. He became frightened actually. And he realized the crime he had committed by tying up Sage Narada. He realized that Narada was not an ordinary person. So he came back running and Narada was waiting there patiently. He untied Narada and he fell at his feet. He said, oh master, I am very, very sorry. Please forgive me. To which Narada told him, see Ratnakar, I may forgive you, God may forgive you, but your own conscience should be willing to forgive you. And that can never happen unless you burn up all these karmas which you saw. To which he asked him, what should I do? None of my family members came forward. He said, it's not only a family member. Nobody in the world can share. It is not possible to share your karmas. It is you who needs to face the consequences of your actions. You need to face the consequences of your actions. You have to take up that responsibility. And you have the power to burn up all these karmas. And he initiated him, he gave him the empowerment one by one. And he gave him the mantra, Ram, and he said, start chanting this. When a master gives the mantra, that is, a master from the highest experience chants the mantra, that is different from normal chanting. Because he awakens the power and then chants. So he chanted Ram, and when the moment he chanted Ram, Ratnakar's mind became very, very calm. He said, now go on chanting. This will purify you. So he tried to chant Ram, but he was unable to. Because throughout his life, he used to kill people and then shout Mara. Mara means that person is dead, Mara, Mara. That was what he was used to. So suddenly for him to chant Ram was impossible. So he said, I'm not able to focus my mind, because the force of the karmas, the force of the inner agitations were so strong, they were pulling him down. They were pulling his consciousness down, they were pulling his mind down. It was not allowing the mind to focus. So he pleaded with Narada and said, help me. Narada said, don't worry. It is your bhavana, intention that matters. Even if you are not able to chant Ram, start chanting Mara, but with the bhavana of Ram. See, that is the key. Your intention, bring that intention. You have that power of choice, the willpower. So bring that intention, surrender to the higher Shakti. He had already surrendered to Narada completely. He had taken him as his guru, And that is why Narada was guiding him. See, only when a student surrenders, the guru will guide. If the student doesn't want advice, the guru will never give. See, advice is never given. Advice is always taken. Remember this. Guidance is never given. Guidance is always taken by the student. So there was this so-called highway robber, Ratnakar, who was fully ready, but he was unable to practice the sadhana which the Guru gave him. So the Guru said, don't worry, it is your bhavana that matters. Bring that intention. With that full bhavana, chant Mara only, which you are comfortable with. So he started chanting Mara, Mara, Mara. Third time, if you just chant Mara, Mara 3 times and see Mara, Mara, Mara. From third time it will become Ram. First 2 times, Mara is just the reverse of Ram, no? So Rama, Rama, Rama. So Mara, Mara, Mara. Second, third time he slowly got into it. As he started doing the sadhana, it is the effort that matters. Even if you do it wrongly, it is okay. But the fact that you are trying with sincerity and you have surrendered to the Guru, you have surrendered to the higher, and you are being very, very sincere, that is what matters in the sadhana. So with all sincerity, with the pure bhavana, he chanted the wrong mantra, but it slowly got converted into the right mantra. Mara, 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 he went on, and then it became Rama. And as he was chanting Rama, said Narada gave him the higher and higher empowerments. From the physical body, he went into the Pranavayu Sharira. From Pranavayu Sharira, he purified the Prana Sharira, then the Manomaya Kosha, then the wisdom body, bliss body. He went to the Jivatma level, and then he went on expanding his consciousness. Narada helped him in that, and he became the great sage Valmiki, who wrote the Ramayana. See, this incident shows that in the good old days, they never saw caste and all this. It was a highway robber, but when he got transformed, he was accepted as a great saint, as a great sage. So this shows Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, it is not determined by birth. It is by your qualities only. Many examples like this are there. Vishwamitra himself was born in a Kshatriya family, but through his efforts he became a Brahma Rishi. Even all the so-called Brahmins looked up to him because he went beyond the concept of being a Brahmin also. He became one with that infinite, So, if you see this story of Valmiki, it's so inspiring. Even though he was so negative, the point which is being given to you here is that even if you are experiencing a lot of negativities, don't worry, because the more the waves, it means more deep actually you are. You have the depth within you. If you are just like a trough of water, a small spoon of water, there will be no waves there. There is no energy flow. If you are in a tamasic state, then your capacity to explore the ocean will not be there. But being in the state of agitations is rajas. But when you are in that state, you always have the possibility of exploring the depth. That is what happened with Valmiki. Everyone would have criticized him. From Ratnakar, he became the greatest, one of the greatest saints. See, imagine writing the whole Ramayana. See, when these great masters wrote, like Vyasa wrote the Purana, Valmiki wrote the Ramayana, now they don't write it as mere stories. If you read the Puranas, if you read the story, that builds a tremendous energy flow within you. Reading means not merely externally reading, it's using the yogic approach. As far as you're all concerned, every Sunday the wisdom which is being given to you, that is giving you so much of depth that slowly you will begin to understand the depth of all the Vedas, all the Puranas, everything, just by using the yogic approach here. It is the depth that matters. So what gives that power? The Bhagavad Gita was given 5,000 years back. We are reading it now and our consciousness is getting elevated. Why? Because they don't write these things as mere incidents, mere stories. See, they are at a very, very high state. When Valmiki wrote the Ramayana, it was from the highest state of realization that he wrote that. So that has so much of Shakti. That is why last week I told you, Vyasa requested Lord Ganesha to write the Mahabharata, so that will have the Shakti. If Lord Ganesha himself writes, then how much of power it will have. So, being a highway robber, he became one of the greatest saints. So, this is an answer to all the people who keep asking this question in different ways. Is it possible for me to achieve it? Are you at the state of a highway robber? Definitely no. The amount of sins which Ratnakar had committed, it was too much. Your weaknesses are nothing compared to that. Yet he became a Valmiki. Why? It is because he was like the ocean. So he started exploring the depth. So if it can happen to him, why not to you? You're just feeling guilty about one or two things which you've done. That is not a big thing. So the focus here, this is the subtler message. See, last week I had given you this message from this verse that you should compare yourself from the ocean. Now in that, I'm further adding one more dimension, and I'm giving you the deeper sadhana message there. That is, at any point of time in your life, when you're facing some problem or other, remember that it is the waves. So start putting an effort to explore the depth of the ocean. Go to the source of the problem through sadhana, purify yourself and become one with the infinite. The Guru Shakti will help you in that. Why are we having these empowerment programs? It is to facilitate this process of inner exploration. So that is the deeper sadhana message embedded in this word samudram, ocean. So the same words apuryamanam and samudram. Last week certain messages were given. This week more depth was added, some more dimensions have been given. So absorb these messages. From this moment onwards, you should have the inner strength to be able to pulverize all thoughts of self-doubts within you. It is a moment when Sita was a captive of Ravana and she was feeling very down. At that time Hanuman came and he gave her the ring which Rama had given to Hanuman. When you meet Sita, you should give her this ring as a proof that you are a messenger of Rama. So when he gave her the ring, Sita got the confidence. Till then she didn't know whether Rama even knew that she was here or when is he going to come to save her. Nothing was known to her. But the moment that ring was seen, she got that confidence. So that should be the inner state of a sadhak. The confidence which you build within yourself to achieve anything in the world and also to become a sthita prajna. Spirituality, the spiritual truths, the highest truth is meant for strong people, not for weak people. So this word samudram actually helps you to build that inner strength which is very much required to actually become a sthita prajna. Okay, so I'll stop with that today. I'll go into more messages, more depth next week also. When he says, in whom the objects of desire enter, there are a lot of messages there. So we'll see that. One by one, I'm carefully, passing on the messages. I'm just taking you slowly in this exploration, not rushing through these verses. See, if you want to explore the ocean, you'll have to very carefully, slowly explore. You cannot do it, you cannot rush it through. It's these verses themselves are like the ocean only. Your personality is like the ocean. So either way you look at it, whether you want to understand the depth of these verses or whether you want to understand yourself deeply, you need to patiently move. But the silver lining in the cloud is that even though we are moving slowly, every bit of it gives you so much of inspiration, so much of happiness, isn't it? See, the same word samudram we have been exploring so many, this verse for last few weeks. How every week it fills us with so much of joy. I'm actually not giving a lecture in the truest sense of the term. I'm just getting inspired and this is getting expressed. So when you are receiving, you are not actually listening to a lecture. You are just receiving the higher wisdom with the energy. So let's not fix any boundaries to this. Patiently, let us explore. Okay? So in today's meditation, I'm going to take you deep and install these dimensions of Apuryamanam, and also installing the self-confidence in you in order to achieve your worldly goals and also to achieve the spiritual goal, the ultimate goal. See, achieving worldly goals is not a big thing in spirituality. It may be a big thing for a person who's caught up there, but the real challenge is in becoming a Sthita Prajna. So we'll be installing all that. Before that, I will take up a few questions which have come. The first one is what Neha Paranyapi, she has written in the YouTube section last week. She has mentioned that Hari Om Yogeshri, very sorry Yogeshri for not writing points learned in today's lecture. When I was listening to the lecture, there were continuous unrelated thoughts going on in my mind one after another. Secondly, my eyes were closing because of sleep. In the entire lecture, I was trying hard to stop both the things, but was unsuccessful in doing so. So I'm going to repeat today's session again so that I can recapitulate the points. Thank you, Neha. Now, I'm taking up this because many of you may have had similar experiences. Now, you don't need to worry on this account. See, as I told you, these sessions are not mere lectures. A lot of energy is also being given, a lot of healing is being given. So sometimes what can happen is that when you're receiving the healing, especially during this period, because every week I'm preparing you for the Prana Tattva level 1 empowerment also, which we are going to start by this month end. And you have registered for that. So when the subtler healing is also being given, your experience in the Sunday discourses will be more deep. So when the healing is happening, the cleaning up process may happen. That is why the thoughts are going helter-skelter. So you should not resist it. See, what you have written is, I was trying hard to stop both. The other thing is, my eyes were closing because of sleep. It is not sleep. It is making you, it is forcing you to meditate. Like what happened to Valmiki, when sage Narada gave him the first level of healing, immediately his eyes closed and he became deep. That is what is happening. So you don't put too much pressure on yourself. Go with the flow. Supposing even if you fall off to sleep, it is not a crime. You can wake up and later on listen to the lecture. No, it is not a wrong thing which you have committed. Sometimes it is possible that this healing energy may put you off to sleep because you require that rest. It is possible. But usually it is a deep meditative state. The healing is happening. So go with the flow of the energy. That is the very purpose of these sessions. So you enjoy that. Don't try to resist it. Don't try to stop that. And as you have said, later on you can always come back, listen to it again, and and express those points here, and even whatever you have expressed here is a way of expressing only. The whole idea is to practice expressing yourself naturally. So to build a clarity, if you want to summarize the points and all that, this is what I had suggested. So you can do that later. But don't think that this experience is something wrong, because you have said, I am very sorry, Yogishri. First of all, you don't need to say sorry to me, because by your putting your points here, it is you who is going to benefit. You're going to become more prepared for the deeper healing. So, you don't need to apologize and all that. The main point here is, in case you feel very meditative and the healing is happening, now don't try to resist it. Your concern is, am I missing the points? You can always come back later and listen to the lecture again. That is why this is being kept there. Okay, so others also please make a note of this. I will take up one more question regarding Prana Tattva. Someone, actually 3 people have asked this about aura and aura expansion and all that. They have, one lady has said that long before she had attended some course on aura, and she has mentioned a few things about what they told her about aura. Now my genuine request is, set aside all those concepts, because whatever points you have written, they are all very, very superficial points. See, every street corner there is someone to talk about these things. See, we are going to go very deep in this Prana Tattva level 1. Prana Vayu Sharira level. The aura expansion techniques, it is not a technique actually, it is empowerment. When you receive that empowerment, your aura will start expanding naturally. So someone has asked, how is that related to goal manifestation? I will be explaining all this during the empowerment course. We have 22 days, no? Going to be very deep right from day 1. The first week will be more of preparation, but that preparation itself will be at a very, very deep level. That is why I am giving, I am giving you the small sadhanas, that is the small meditation which you prepare in the morning, which you do in the morning, and then in the night also a small practice. And I am also invoking the healing Shakti and sending to all of you who have registered, because that preparation is required to be able to handle the higher Shakti. The last minute, if you suddenly come and register, now it will become more difficult. Yes, if you have heard about it only at that time and you have come, that is different. But otherwise, if you know about this before and you are also going to attend, you have decided, then don't postpone it, because you should gain the full benefits of this. So, how is that aura expansion related to goal manifestation? When your aura is strong and when it's pure, when it is in an expanded state, the energy which it creates is so powerful and positive that it can manifest the goals for you very fast. So this principle I will be explaining during the empowerment fully. So when you come there, you will understand it fully. I am just mentioning it because you have asked this. So a master's aura is infinite. Some time back, this question was asked by Manjunath ji. I am answering it now. Dhyana moolam guror murtihi, puja moolam guror padam, mantra moolam guror vakyam, moksha moolam guror kripa. That Guru Stotram, and that I had explained the mantra moolam guror vakyam, how anything which a Guru says or does becomes a mantra. Now it creates vibrations. So Manjunath ji had asked, then what is the meaning of Dhyana Moolam Guror Murtihi? Does it mean we have to meditate on the form of the Guru? It is a very subtle sadhana which is being given there. The form of the Guru is there, not Murtihi is not the physical form. It is the energy form, the aura. So Dhyana Moolam Guror Murtihi actually means being in the spiritual aura of a Guru that is very conducive for meditation by the inner connection. So when you attend the Prana Tattva level 1 empowerment, this will become more clear to you. How you see, when the moment we say form, you take it only as a physical form, but there are subtler and subtler forms. So Dhyana Moolam Gurur Murti means Murti there means the subtler and subtler forms which the Guru represents. So as you get attuned to the subtler and subtler forms, the aura of the Guru, the real Guru's aura is merged with the infinite. So you will also merge with the infinite. So it is the deeper connection with the Guru they are talking about there. Not merely meditating on the external form of the Guru. That is limited. I am giving that answer to that question which Manjunath ji had asked. Some time back he had asked this question. But anyway, when you attend the Prana Tattva empowerment, it will become more clear. Okay, so now we'll do the meditation. Relax completely. It's going to be a powerful session. I'm also preparing you for the Prana Tattva empowerment. Gently close your eyes. Do deep breathing. Inhale fully, exhale completely. With every breath, I am becoming more and more divine. with every breath, I'm going deeper and deeper into myself. I am the ocean, Samudram. I have the power to go deep within myself and merge with that supreme state of Shanti. I have 100% self-confidence. I have the power to complete all my experiences. I am in a state of Purnam, completeness. Offer your gratitude to God Supreme. Offer your gratitude to your Guru and all the holy masters. Slowly come back. Wriggle your fingers, your toes. Rub your palms together to create a warmth. Cup your eyes with your palms. Gently rub your eyes, cheeks, forehead, top of the head, back of the head and neck. Slowly open your eyes. Welcome back. It is such a deep session, This path of inner exploration is so deep and it fills you with tremendous energy and inner strength. You should develop so much of self-confidence as a sadhak, where you feel, I am doing my sadhana, I am receiving the higher grace. So any problem, any negativity will all get pulverized. Nothing can touch me. So as you begin to get into that state, that will become a reality. The Prana Tattva level 1 empowerment which we are going to have, your inner strength is going to be increased to unimaginable levels. When you start functioning from the Prana Vayu Sharira level, you will find a lot of power, a lot of strength. And we'll go on increasing and expanding that. As you do your sadhana and purify yourself more and more, you become qualified for higher and higher empowerments. So do the preparatory sadhanas which have been given to you, that morning meditation, and then the night I have given you some energized statements and I have asked you to do the sadhana. They will build your capacity to a very good extent. And the healing also is being given to your pranic body. Already many people who have registered for the course have started sending mails that they are able to see a lot of difference. Many problems are getting solved, and one lady has written that her financial problems have got solved and the relationships are getting strengthened. That's because of the healing energy which is being sent. So by the time you come to the course, the empowerment course, you already will be at a high level. That is, many of your issues which require the pranic strength, that is the solutions will require the pranic strength, will already be there. Then your path, your progress in the course will be very smooth. That is the whole idea. And some of you are doing the Ancient Secrets of Health 22-day course again to prepare yourself. That is really wonderful. I am giving separate healing for that also, for those of you who are doing, so that your experience enhances. See, it is all the question of what enthusiasm which you show. Infinite energy is there to be given, but depending on your enthusiasm, the wisdom also gets awakened. Your receptivity is what matters. So I'm extremely happy for you all that you're going to get this empowerment, and you're showing so much of enthusiasm to do the preparatory sadhana, to get yourself ready to receive the higher empowerment. Because when the students show a lot of eagerness, that is when you can awaken the Guru Shakti. The energy flow will automatically happen. If you say, oh, I want to attend, but I'm waiting for the Ichcha to develop, desire to develop, see, some reason or other if you give, then that is not going to awaken the higher Shakti. The moment a higher opportunity comes, you should be such a wonderful sadhak and be ever ready, ever willing to receive all the blessings and benefits. That is the key. Okay? So we'll continue with this in the next session. Thank you very much. Hari Om.